How you doing? Welcome back. My name is Rick and this is Winder's Ranger. So I thought I would put together a quick video and just show some of the things that I've done as far as upgrades and things that I've changed, some things I've had to change with the RV here. So we'll start up in the front end and we'll work our way back here. Okay, so of course the first thing I'm going to point out is going to be the fantastic fan here. We got the trim. I think I pointed all that out in the last video with the air conditioner. But we upgraded that to try to move some air in the RV with the upgrade that I did with the air conditioner recently. This was one thing that I wanted to do anyway, was to put a fantastic fan in the bathroom, because in the wintertime, of course, you know, obviously it's colder outside, the RV's not insulated all that great. You take a hot shower and all that steam and moisture's got to go someplace, so up there it goes. One of the other things that I did is I replaced the spigot in the bathroom sink with a residential. It's an actual metal faucet, and the reason being was the handles are a lot quieter than the plastic version of this that was in the RV, and this actually is pretty close to what the original one looked like, but it being metal, the valve stems and everything in it are also metal. They don't make as much noise as the plastic version did when it was in here, especially the hot water. The hot water would cause the valve and the stem and the seats and everything to swell because of the heat, and that would make the handle really squeaky. It was really annoying, so I just replaced it with that. And since I replaced the faucet, I also changed out, well, I found that the water lines, of course the red one there, and let's see, this is the hot water, cold water. Both of these had connections on them that fit right up into the bottom of the old spigot, and it turned out the hot water was leaking a little bit. It wasn't much, but it was just enough that it was concerning, and I wouldn't have found it hadn't I changed the spigot out, because it wasn't enough to collect on the floor. So I cut the lines back probably a good 8 to 10 inches and added brass fittings, male fittings, and then I attached the braided water lines, and then they go up to the spigot there, and hopefully that should take care of any issues as far as any future leaks. Plus, if I decide to change out that faucet again in the future, it's a lot easier to change. I can just disconnect the faucet from the countertop, lift it away, and then undo the water lines, as opposed to having them more permanently attached directly to the hard plastic water lines that were the way it was originally. I did a similar thing with the shower. I also replaced the spigot. I don't particularly care for this particular design, the way this thing sticks out, because it comes out to about here and it actually kind of gets in the way when you're in the shower. But that was the only one that I could find that would work with this shower adapter. This is actually a faucet for a sink, you know, a regular sink, not necessarily a shower spigot. But I needed something to work with this because of the way the RV wall is set up and everything. As I got an adapter, and you have to forgive me, I can't remember the manufacturer. I'll see if I can look it up, and if I can, I'll add it to the bottom of the screen here. But the manufacturer for this, this is actually for maybe like washing your pet, or maybe you know, your feet or your kids or something get dirty, and you've got like an industrial deep sink or something in a garage. You might put this on the spigot in the garage, or even outside or something like that, and if you turn that valve that way, water would come out the bottom here. You turn it this way and it directs the water into the water line, and then it comes out the shower head. And I used this. I was going out on a little bit of a limb hoping that it would have enough flow to use it as a shower, and it turns out it actually works pretty good. After I'm done each shower, I just open it up and let the water run out. Otherwise it'll sit here and drip, and there's hard water here, so I'll end up with a stain on the floor if I don't do that. But when I changed this out, the water lines were attached the same as they were to the bathroom sink, and they were attached directly to the back of the spigot. And it made it really difficult. You take these screws out, and this thing would only come off the wall so far because it was attached to those hard water lines. So what I did when I added this in is I did the same thing as I got the braided water lines. I cut the existing water lines back a little bit so they're down inside the wall, put the new male fittings on those, and then I attached the braided water lines to those, hopefully to try to stem away any future leaks or anything that might occur, you know, in the shower. Because consequently, behind this wall here, not including this, behind the wall here, there's only about 6 to 8 inches of clearance between here and the wall where the electrical control panel is on the other side by the door. And underneath of this is a bird's nest of wiring and the inverter for the part of the RV electrical system, which I think is kind of a shoddy design to have electrical right behind the shower. And the hot water heater, of course, is in the floor, or in, well, kind of in the compartment here underneath the shower. So all of that, in, you know, water and electrical don't really mix that well, and I don't think that I would have designed it that way. Whether or not I'll come back in the future and try to maybe move the electrical someplace else or shield it, so if something happens here, it's not going to affect the electrical of the RV. But for the time being, I tried to bulletproof this as much as I could and prevent any future issues. So I don't know that I'd really call this an upgrade so much, but it kind of all ties together. Is I redid the trim here on the wall, mainly because the wall here, you can see there's a little bit of a bubble. There's another one here, and then there's another one there. The original trim that was on here, that I'm thinking that this is part of, it's semi-exposed to the outdoor humidity. Comes into this wall here through cracks and crevices and things in the underbelly and the compartment up front. And of course you've got the inside temperature, whatever I've got the air conditioner set at, and it affects this wall. And this has been an issue on this trailer ever since I got it, and I'm not real sure exactly why. I partly figured that it might have had something to do with the vent pipes that are in the wall for the black and gray tank. And I'll include a quick clip where I stuck the borescope. I pulled this trim off, stuck the borescope in, and I traced the vent pipes. I suspected that I had an issue either with the vent pipe that goes to the roof, which I couldn't find on the roof, so I suspected that it just didn't go all the way, or they put a anti-siphon valve, which is supposed to allow the valve to open when you drain your tanks, and it closes when the tank valves are closed to prevent any sewer gas smell from coming into the RV. And I was getting a little bit of that, and I thought, well, if that valve is malfunctioning or they didn't close it up or whatever, it may be allowing moisture from in that tank just to kind of vent into the wall, which I thought that might be part of the issue. It turned out I'm right on both senses. The vent pipe wasn't finished and it was allowing sewer gas in, but this, I think, it's still being affected now that all that's fixed. So I think this is partly because of the heat and moisture that comes up from the underbelly. Not real sure how to fix that, but I did replace the trim here after I got the vent pipe fixed, and I had to add a piece of trim up here because when I drilled the hole I measured incorrectly and I was off just a little bit, so I had to cover up my mistake with a little piece of trim there. But this trim, I painted it black, and I wasn't sure how that would look, but this dark color here and then the lighter gray here, it actually I think looks pretty good. So that hasn't turned out too bad. I would have liked to have been able to take care of this bulge in the wall. This wooden trim is holding it a lot better than the existing trim was. The original trim, this as this wall pushed out, it actually pulled the trim away from the wall, which was kind of unusual. But anyway, still trying to figure out how to fix that. Alright, so the mini split is the most recent upgrade. I did a couple of videos, a series of videos on the mini split and the install. None of them are really a tutorial so much as it just kind of showcased what I did as I went along. But the bunk, this RV is a toy hauler, a fifth wheel toy hauler, and this used to be a bunk area, and it was open on this side and it had kind of a railing on that side, and that could be where, you know, smaller person or maybe a child or something like that could sleep. And there's a ladder that I have that leans up against here that you can gain access, and there's a vent up in the ceiling up there. Well, I closed all that in and put this pine board up and redid the trim, and then I mounted the mini split there. ran all the coolant lines into the what's now a storage space in behind. The coolant lines come into the wall over here and then go down to the the outdoor unit. And then I made cabinets, which we'll show you those on the other side. There's cabinet doors on the back side of this that originally was a closed-in wall. So that basically moves the access from in here to into the garage, and then just made this a solid wall. Now I'm not 100% certain that I'm going to continue to use the mini split. Tried to run the mini split on the generator a couple days ago, and it doesn't look like it's going to work. The generator doesn't have enough power to run the mini split, or I've got something wired incorrectly, which I don't think, because otherwise a mini split wouldn't run at all. But if I take the mini split out, I'm going to leave this arrangement the same. I'll have to redo this because there's a big 3.5 inch hole on this side to let the coolant lines pass through. But this will stay closed like it is and keep it a storage space in the garage. I guess we'll call it a fix more than an upgrade, but I had to redo the hood for the stove here, and this thing was loose on one side. A lot of these paneling walls are just kind of like an OSB or just a manufactured, almost like a hard dense cardboard type thing. And I don't know if somebody bumped it or what, but it stripped the screws out of the one side and it just wouldn't hold, and the thing was kind of floppy, and you're just afraid it was going to fall off of there going down the road or something. So I took it down, and there's a space inside of here, probably an inch and a half, maybe 2 inches between the microwave and the top of the hood, and some wires run through there, so I had to kind of be careful. But I got some sort of an anchor that when you run the screw in from the bottom, it actually mushrooms out the anchor on the inside, and it held onto the paneling there, and that made this a lot more sturdy, and I haven't had any problems with it since. So the washer dryer combo, I put that in last year, and I installed water line and drain line that goes down through the floor and actually attaches to the galley tank from the kitchen, the pipes that come out of the galley tank, and I put a separate valve in, so just in case there's a log jam someplace and I'm dumping the tanks, the galley valve didn't control this. So if there's a log jam and something backed up when I'm dumping the tanks, I didn't want to have an issue where everything backed up into the pipe here into the garage. So I didn't hook in hot water. This is just cold tap water, more or less, and it comes straight from the spigot outside. It's got its own dedicated water line that comes up to this. There's a valve here at the top. Of course, there's two valves here on the Y, and there's a valve down below. Figured I couldn't go wrong with having valves on both sides. So if I'm outside and there's a leak, I can shut it off, or if I'm inside and there's a leak, I can shut it off. And of course the valve at the spigot outside. But what I did is I took the hot and the cold side, because this washer needs water to go into both or it won't function correctly, or it thinks that something's wrong. So I just hooked them both into the same line, so it can draw water, it's just not going to actually get hot water. And it doesn't matter, I don't wash my clothes in hot water anyway. So my only real complaint with this is two-sided. One, it takes a good long time to do a load of laundry. My other complaint is that it isn't balanced at all. There's no balancing ring or anything like that inside the drum. So if you put a load of laundry, like towels, in there, and those towels are wet and it goes to spin, man, this thing shakes like nobody's business. So anyway, this has kept me out of the laundromat, so that's kind of nice. Of course, there's the Maxxair fan in the garage. That needed to be replaced. The original fan that was in here just had the little tiny fan in the corner, and you know, it burned the motor out of that, so this needed to be replaced anyway. But with the mini split in here and the outdoor unit being in the garage, and it makes the garage hot, I needed some added ventilation, so this was one of the needed things that had to go in. And so far I like it. This has got an automatic setting, and I've been running it on auto for the last couple days, so when it gets to a certain temperature, it'll come on and it'll run, and then when it cools off below that temperature, it'll shut off and then close the lid all by itself. So just kind of been letting it sit there and run on its own. Now here's the cupboards. Of course, I've got everything up in the storage space, but I cut the two doors, and I had to have this extra. This wouldn't have been near as wide in the middle here as what it is, but there's aluminum support structure. It runs from the ceiling down to a beam that runs across here, holds the whole thing up. And I didn't have any choice but to leave it as wide as I did, unless I wanted to cut that thing, and I didn't want to cut the support. So I measured it, and I measured everything that went in there, or everything that was originally up there when I took it out through the other side, to make sure I could fit it through these doors, and everything fit just fine. So I cut hole saw. I used a hole saw and cut 4 corners to locate my doors, and then I just connected with a rotary zip saw, I guess they call it. Cut out the doors on both sides. Used the same multi-purpose tool with a sanding tip to cut the burrs and stuff off. And then I took 2 pieces of 1x1, and I got a 1x1 here, and there's a 1x1 on this side, and that's what the hinges to the 2 doors attached to give them a little bit of rigidity, something to hang on to. And I still got to put in the knobs, probably put a knob. I've got the knobs sitting here and just haven't installed them yet. Probably put them in the lower corners, I'm thinking. And the little snaps, little rotary snaps, I guess they call them, the cupboard door snaps that you often see in RVs. I've got a set of those also, but I haven't put them in yet. So, and I want to paint the trim inside there just so it's not quite so obvious. And that should pretty much be done. I've been leaving them open to kind of help with the mini split and drawing air through the air vent in the ceiling there. So just been leaving the doors open for the time being, just to kind of help with the airflow in here. They're running the mowing machines outside today, but this is going to be the, well, it's not going to be the final one. This is one of the other updates that I did, is I cut this compartment door in for the mini split to exhaust out of. And the point was, in putting this in versus a set of louvers, I was afraid that louvers would still allow rainwater to come into the inside of the trailer when you're going down the road. Whereas this, I've got it propped open. I made a set of props on the side here, just a set of wooden boards, and then I used a bungee cord to kind of hold pressure to it, hold everything together. When I decide I want to leave, take the wood props out, take the bungee cord off, and I can close the door and lock it, and that'll make it more or less waterproof for going down the road. The props also serve to keep rain from blowing in from the sides, and I had to just put a piece of tape across the top for the time being to keep any rainwater that runs down the side of the trailer from getting in around the edges and going inside. If I leave this as a permanent setup, I'm going to get some kind of like a vent shade, maybe for an automotive application, and putting up there something that's not going to look quite so gaudy as just a piece of tape. But I haven't gone to the store to get that yet, so it's still just temporary. And this is another upgrade that I did. I got these vent screens for the fridge. There's the upper one there and the lower one here, and they're just a little bug screen. They're pre-fabricated. They just come in a pack, and they got little zip ties, and you just zip tie them on and then reattach everything, and that'll stop bugs and bees and wasps and mud daubers and things like that getting into your vents and making nests and whatnot. And down here in Florida, we've also got love bugs and the ladybugs. They like to get into any little small space that they can find, so it kind of helps keep all that out of there, keep the fridge from getting clogged up with bug nests and whatnot. So that was a relatively cheap upgrade. I also have another set of these on the other side for the furnace. I'll walk you around and show you that real quick. Just little screens for the furnace, and just got a little spring for each one, and the spring grabs a hold of the 3 little braces on the inside there. So what prompted this whole thing, putting these screens on here, is I noticed when I came around here to dump the tanks one day, a little tree frog, a little green tree frog stuck his head out there and looked at me, and was kind of concerned at how far into the furnace the frog was going, or if there was anything else crawling up in there, a mouse or whatever. So went on and found these screens on the internet, ordered a set of those, and it also came with the ones for the fridge too. So I don't know if it's so much of an upgrade as it was more of a fix, but I had to reseal the window here. It was leaking a little bit on the bottom. I think in this bottom corner over here, it was leaking over there and allowing water into the paneling inside. That needed to be fixed. So I got a kit from, I think, Lippert, I think it was, and came with the seals and everything, and just took the window out, resealed it, put it back in. I thought it was going to be, you know, maybe an hour or two to do that. I think that was most of the day, to take the window apart, pull it out, clean everything up, reseal it, and put it back in. But so far the seal has been holding pretty good. I've got no complaints there either, so that's worked out. Minus the gecko there hanging on the hose. You see, this is the hose that I added in for the washer that's in the garage. It just goes up, and I cut a hole. This is the hand box for the galley tank. So I opened that and I just cut a hole through there into the floor and put the PEX pipe in. Just put a valve on the outside where I can get to it, and the hose just attaches from there. So there you have it. Those are the upgrades that I've done to the RV so far. I've got a few more in mind. Still kind of playing around. The priority right now is the mini split, whether or not I'm going to keep that in there, or if it's going to come out, and I'm going to find somebody else that's going to give it a better home than me. But we're still testing it and seeing how it runs, how I'm going to deal with the open window venting the garage to the mini split and ingress of moisture and things like that. So anyway, thanks for coming along on this, and appreciate you watching. If you would, hit that thumbs up. That really helps out a lot, helps get the video out on the platform, and maybe these upgrades can steer other people in the right direction and what they want to do, if they're going to do like I did or something different. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. That'll keep you up to date on future videos, and we will see you all on the next video. Take care.